there are teams around Newcastle above them in the relegation zone. Newcastle seem to have the form at the moment. That's 3 wins on the bounce under Eddie Howe recently. Their signings seem to be coming to fruition, although albeit Chris Wood seems to be trying really hard to score and not getting close. So Newcastle beat Villa 1-0. Does that mean you put Newcastle up there as favourites to pull themselves out of it? They spent an absolute fortune, so you'd imagine so. How do you see the relegation race going now, Miles, with the way things are going? It's difficult to tell because none of the games are equal, but what's your take?
I think Newcastle didn't necessarily look like the most overwhelming side, but what they did look was organised, and that's something that they've lacked for a while. Even when they had Steve Bruce, who was quite a defensive coach, they looked poor defensively, whereas in this game, they were really strong. Villa didn't offer much, to be honest. They didn't really need to defend that well, but when they did, Dan Burn looked fantastic. I thought it was a great debut for him. And Kieran Trippier, obviously, he's a wonderful professional, and it's been said limitless times and will continue to be said that he brings so much to the club just by being there as a presence with his experience with England, at Atletico Madrid, and even with Tottenham as well. That's something that Newcastle really needed, that bit of quality and that bit of understanding and maturity, I think. And he's obviously been a great success already, and now it looks like he might be out for a short period of time with a broken bone in his foot. They lost both fullbacks in this game as well, Newcastle, and couldn't play Matt Targett because he was on loan. But they still looked defensively organised, and I think Lascelles pulled out quite late on in the game, but preparation as well with an illness. So I think they're doing the right things, and they're trying to build that solid foundation. We've still not seen Bruno Guimaraes yet properly. We've seen a couple of minutes from him, but I think that will be a brilliant addition to their side as well. A player that I'm really excited for, to be honest. I'm glad he's in the Premier League, even if it is at Newcastle. And Chris Wood will do something for them in this season. And even if he doesn't, he's only there as cover until Wilson comes back in anyway. But no, Newcastle definitely have the potential to get out of it. They're all of a sudden only a point behind Everton, 2 points behind Leeds. They're out of the bottom 3. I can't see them falling back into it now because they probably do have more quality than the rest of the sides around them. And like you say, that momentum. But it was pretty easy for them to build momentum against Villa on Saturday. It was a shocking game.
Well, while we're on Villa, what did you see that disappointed you? Because Gerrard looked really deflated after the game, didn't he? And rightly so. But what was different about this performance?
Oh, they were just wasteful. Honestly, they had a lot of possession at times. They could have controlled the pace of it, but they didn't. Coutinho didn't get on the ball, so he barely was able to create anything. Watkins looked really isolated up front. We wasted every opportunity we got from the set piece. They had Douglas Luiz on free kicks and corners, and he overhit every single one. It was really disappointing. And obviously, the goal is so frustrating to concede. You give a free kick away that close to the goal. It's not ideal, but you often think, well, that's going over the wall and over the goal.
Well, what's Buendia doing there, though? Because Martinez couldn't see anything.
That's not on Buendia to me. That's on Martinez. Mings was furious. He shoved Buendia afterwards. But if you're arranging your defence and Martinez can't see, he needs to make that clear. And what do you expect Buendia to do in that moment? If someone's taking a shot at goal and you can get something in the way of it, you go towards the ball. You'd be scathing at him if he jumped out of the way of it and Martinez didn't see it in that way. It was unfortunate. But the offside goal was... it's another one where it's millimetres that we've got to start thinking about. The thing that... I know it's silly. I was talking to someone at work about this the other day. Look, we know what the offside rule is, and I know why it is there. But has Ollie Watkins gained an advantage there? Not at all. His toenail's offside. If you look at the lines that are drawn, the back of the defender's foot is over the line. So it's not even drawn from the same... You're not using the same perspective and the same scale. And this is a ball that deflected up into the air, looped up for ages, and then fell to Watkins. So he had no advantage. He wasn't stood 30 yards up the pitch. It was one of them.
Well, let me just add to that, Miles, though. I mean, as a neutral watching that, I want to see that goal chalked off, you know?
You never want to see goals chalked off. You want to see him given. If that had gone in, then obviously that changes the tide of the game and maybe Villa build a bit of momentum because obviously Newcastle had already lost a couple of players to injury at that point. They had a break in the middle of the second half as well. There was an incident in the stands and that really helped Newcastle. Villa looked like they started to build a bit of attacking threat and Newcastle just got themselves reorganised at that point, put 10 men behind the ball and defended well in a good shape. And Dan Burn just won everything that came into the box. So, yeah, frustrating from Villa. They didn't really seem to have a plan in this game. And once they couldn't get Coutinho on the ball, they didn't even really try to. And he took Buendia off way too early, it seemed, who actually did look a bit bright. And it was really underwhelming. And the last couple of games have worried me a little bit, I'll be honest.
Well, on Newcastle, I think you've got to credit their energy levels, their maturity. And I think you talk about the influence of players like Trippier coming into the side, with this winning mentality. You can just see, can't you, the difference. He elevates the players around him. And with the defence completely changed almost from what it was before Eddie Howe's arrival, they needed that, didn't they? They really did. I kind of thought they'd have a bit of a wobble with that many new recruits so soon after one another. But they couldn't have been much worse than they were during Steve Bruce's reign, could they, defensively? So, yeah, massive change. It almost feels like the Steve Bruce era was a year ago or more, doesn't it? It's that much has happened since he was in charge.
He started another one now, hasn't he, with West Brom, and his star player is Andy Carroll. It's just how Steve Bruce can you get? I just think that's hilarious.
The Steve Bruce tour of all the West Midlands rivals. He's got no loyalty whatsoever, has he?
I wouldn't be loyal to any of the clubs I've been at in the West Midlands if I was Steve Bruce. He treated appallingly. But it's hilarious that other clubs taking on. West Brom fans are in for a right treat.
That's one word for it. Dave, relegation battle then. So obviously Newcastle look like they are putting together some kind of run of form. We've had a bit of a green shoot from Norwich, but they don't look like they're going to come good on their little run of form that they put together. Burnley are an unknown quantity, though, aren't they? They've got so many games in hand still. They're drawing a lot of them. They played Liverpool and lost 1-0 rather to a Fabinho goal, another Fabinho goal. But they played okay. They did all right. They just got no quality, really, have they, in the key areas? They made a lot of chances and just didn't take them. Are Burnley ever going to sort of get themselves out of this? Because I'm of the opinion now that games in hand to a team like Burnley are a negative thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a question of whether the quality that they've brought in is going to be enough to keep them up, isn't it? And that remains to be seen. Seen Weghorst really well against Man United. We've, been very generous to a lot of the relegation candidates. United, as always.
Give it
for them. No, but on a serious note, yeah, it's going to be a question of whether their additions to their team are going to be enough to keep them up. And I mean, we talk about obviously games in hand, but I'd rather have the points on the board because all of a sudden, Burnley are kind of playing catch up to those that are above. Let's be honest, that the teams that are above them aren't too far away, but you're looking at a rejuvenated Newcastle team who are creeping away from the relegation zone. Okay, obviously they've just lost Trippier to a metatarsal, so it could potentially be out for the rest of the season. I feel as though Newcastle might just have enough to stay up. And obviously with the likes of Norwich and obviously got Watford, Leeds could be pulled back into it. They've been a bit shaky of late. A couple of strange games. It just seems to be their midfield really, which they struggle to kind of control games. And we've seen it ever since they've come back into the Premier League. They're a bit of a yo-yo team in terms of how a game tends to flow. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one. I still feel as though Norwich will probably go down. Just don't think as good as a manager as Dean Smith has, and he's they've done a lot of positives as a team since he's come in, and he seems to have found a bit more of a balance to their team, and they've not looked as vulnerable at the back. It's just whether they're going to have enough to kind of, if they can take it late and deep into the season and have a chance, with 2 or 3 games to go, I'm sure they'll probably be happy with that. But I feel as though it will be Norwich, Burnley, and the third place is going to be very tight. But I feel as those two will probably be out of the running, probably with 4 or 3.
Well, I think Watford have decided as well. They're poorer, I think, than Norwich are at the minute. I think Burnley are doing okay. They could, if they take their chances, they could pull close to getting out of it. But I honestly think that bottom three set in stone now.
Do you? I do wonder. Do you know what? Burnley are the funny one to me because, like you say, because we've not actually seen a lot of Burnley this season, it's really hard to judge what they're like. And then the last few games, they have actually played quite well. They just had really tough fixtures. But they could have won against Liverpool had Weghorst put a couple of those chances away. And he is a very good player, I think. I think he had an off day that day, but I think he's a good striker. So that could pick him back up. Watford, to me, I think are the most certain out of those three. I just think they've got no quality. They looked awful against Brighton, I thought. They're boring. They haven't got anything about them. And bizarre that Hodgson's taken that job in the first place. I think they're down. Norwich probably will go down. It's a shame. I would like to see Dean Smith keep them up, and they look a lot better under his stewardship already. I will say they won at the weekend, but Everton have got a really, really hard run of fixtures and could find themselves in a lot more trouble than people anticipate. So if Burnley keep up this form and use their game in hand wisely, you could see Everton get sucked into it quite easily because Newcastle look like they're going to come out of it. Burnley are looking a bit better. Norwich are trying something. We don't know what Frank Lampard's going to do there yet. Good win at the weekend, but still that same side. I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Well, Brentford have played 25 games. I think they've played the most out of those teams in that cluster. So they could be caught up quite easily. True. But there's so many hypothetical if that first team wins that game and if that team wins that game. It's that lack of parity with the games that's making it such a difficult one to call, isn't it, really?
On Brentford, did you see that they played a behind closed doors friendly yesterday and Christian Eriksen played 60 minutes?
Yeah, good to see.
He what, sorry?
I think he scored.
He got an assist, I think. Got an assist.
Against Southend, wasn't it?
I'm not sure who it was against, but yeah, he played 60 minutes and I think he got an assist. It's the first time he's played, obviously. So that's wicked news. Can't wait to see him play again.